A few weeks back, Unity, with its new policy, shook the whole indie game development scene. Their policy basically ground the whole indie game development to a halt. Being most popular among the indie developers, startups, students, and hobbyists, Unity single handedly called doom for everyone involved. What their new monetary policy meant was that devs had to pay Unity a certain amount of money every time their game was downloaded on any platform. Their legal language suggested that the payment would be due on every download, not on a more palatable first time unique download, but every time the game is downloaded on a device. It means that even if the user had to manage their space and delete your game at one point in time, and if they decided to re download your game, you'll have to pay Unity again. And if this wasn't enough, you would still owe money to Unity even if your product was downloaded illegally through piracy. Because Unity uses tools embedded in their engine to count these downloads, and these tools don't care about the legitimacy of the game. This quite understandably pissed off quite a lot of people. Now Unity, alongside Unreal, is the most popular game engine in the world, powering 40% of all the games released back in 2021. So this policy threatened many Unity devs with bankruptcy. And in an even more absurd move, Unity even revised their terms of service and implied that games released before the implementation of this policy would also be liable to pay the new fee. So naturally, Newton's third law kicked into gear and a strong reaction emerged from all the stakeholders. Godot, a free and open source game engine, saw a rise in interest, and YouTube even started recommending tutorial videos to convert your Unity projects to Godot. Now, this pricing didn't come out of nowhere, and the people who were blindsided by this announcement were frankly living under a rock. You see, Unity powers a majority of mobile games, and this platform is calculated to be worth approximately $100 billion US. And this value has only one way to go: up. With so much money changing hands, Unity wanted in on the action, because right now they are making chump change, at least in their own view. They might have deserved more for their engine, but the way they went about it was, to say the very least, wrong. If they simply raised their licensing fee or they reviewed their pricing model, they would have been fine. No one would have even bat an eye. But they got greedy, and instead of earning more money, they earned the wrath of the community. Their policy is as if Ford saw you using your sedan as an Uber and started to demand a portion of your earnings because you were earning because of their product. Now that wouldn't be fair because you've already paid the full asking price, and demanding more is simply extortion. Now you might be wondering, what kind of a genius would come up with such an absurd proposition? And wasn't there anybody over at Unity that called it? Well, to answer your first question, this guy, John Riccatello. Look at him. Seems familiar? He is the guy who wanted you to pay real world money to buy ammo in your first person shooters like Call of Duty and Battlefield simply because you would do the same in real life if you were firing a real firearm. Doesn't matter if you're not using a real weapon in game, but still, immersion. And if this wasn't enough to define the man, he's also the one who called the developers who didn't monetize their games enough effing idiots. What else could you expect from this guy? Now, as I said, there were 1,000 other ways to handle this situation, but a friend opted to go for the most controversial way. Because you need courage to screw things up. Why would you follow industry standards, and why fulfill the industry expectations when you can blow everything that you touch to smithereens? So we have established that Unity got greedy and got what it deserved. But, plot twist. This move could have had a big positive impact on the gaming industry. Bear with me, I'm not saying it was a good idea to force your clients straight into bankruptcy. But look at the quality of games that are coming out these days. Look at how Cyberpunk 2077 was released. Remember the state No Man's Sky was in at release? Okay, these games had nothing to do with Unity, but these do. My point is that we are being flooded by these low quality games which frankly should not even be called games in the first place. They are at their best ad playing simulators. The percentage of good games out of the total games out there is so low that I wouldn't be surprised if it was in a single digit range. And believe me, these games are objectively bad. There is no way you can argue in their favor. Either they are simple learning projects or they are made by the most incompetent developers in the world. Or, in many cases, they are simply frauds and quick cash grabs. And guess who is enabling these releases? Now this splash screen, this made with Unity screen, is the exact opposite of a seal of quality. As a rule of thumb, run to the hills if you see this logo. These asset flips are not fooling anyone, and they're not contributing anything to gaming at all. Now where am I getting with this argument? Look, there will always be bad games, and there's nothing we can do about it. But such a number of bad games is alarming because history is repeating itself. The video game crash of 1983 happened because of bad games. E.T. is believed to be the cause of the crash, but it was not the only one. It represented the trend of the time. The market was being overwhelmed by substandard games and it was essentially becoming an economic bubble. There are far too many similarities between 1983 and the situation today. And the difference is, the stakes are way higher than they were back then. When the industry crashed before, whole companies went under. So many people lost their jobs. The whole industry basically became non existent. But now, if there were to be a crash, the economic impact would be devastating. Even more than before. Much more than we can imagine. The gaming industry has grown so large that it has become a major part of the global GDP. The gaming community is not just nerds anymore. It is a popular culture. Competitive gaming has become a beast of its own. Like it or not, video games have become part of our history and culture. It is no longer a kid's plaything. So, a crash now means a lot more than it meant before. So what I'm saying is, this ill thought out move by Unity might have just saved the world and might have ended up on a positive note. Of course, now the policy has been somewhat reversed, and me saying anything doesn't even matter anymore. I'm even late on the bandwagon. But this is my opinion on the whole situation. I want to clarify again that no way whatsoever I support what Unity tried to do and get away with. I was just hopeful of the butterfly effect it might have had. This whole drama brought engines like Godot into the limelight, and I am happy for that. I do believe that there is a need for such an engine that would help foster creativity and bring forward the future Sid Meier's, Hideo Kojima's, and the Ishiguro Miyamoto's. As a community, we need to back these projects if we want gaming to flourish. Godot is not the end. It is not the only answer. It is a new beginning.